For those who have spent all day online with us, this is, if you're counting, this is our third study session BOCC workshop for the day. The topic will be kind of a review of our losses and trends from CTSI, who's our insurance carrier, and Steve Pacharich is present to take us through that. So Steve, I'll let's go around and introduce for the record. So.
I'm Grant Thayer, Commissioner District 3.
Dallas Schroeder, Commissioner District 2.
Bart Greer, County Attorney.
Sean Fletcher, County Manager.
And I guess I didn't say it, Chris Richardson, Board Chair. Steve, the floor is yours.
All right. Steve Pacharich with CTSI. So I'm sure you know that Marilyn Wagner has retired, semi-retired. She'll be back kind of on a consulting basis starting in June. So you may still see her around. So I will be working with Elbert County going forward. So good to meet everybody today. Today we're just going to look through your 5-year loss report, basically just looking at where has Elbert County experienced claims, and then also kind of where have other pool members had claims, just to kind of show you where you're at and kind of the pool as a whole, since everyone's doing the same type of work, that if another county experienced claims in a certain area, that you might anticipate to see claims in that area as well. So the first graph here, this is just kind of looking year over year just at your cap claims. So this is everything, basically everything other than workers' comp. It's going to be your buildings, your vehicles, liability, things like that. And when we figure out your contribution amount for cap insurance, we look at the 3 oldest years on here. So for what your contribution was this year, we looked at 19, 20, 21, and then next year the oldest year will roll off, and so on. And the 100% line on there, that would just be kind of 100% of what we would anticipate in a year. So, I mean, you can see you had some better than average years and some worse than average years, and if you take it all together, you're probably somewhere right around there. So I did look a little bit through the claims history, and we'll look at it in a little bit less detail as well, but you had some hailstorms. Trying to remember what else. I think there were a couple of vehicle crashes that were substantial, things like that. So some natural disasters, and some of it I think was maybe liability related as well. But that's kind of how that works. So when we look at the cap pool as a whole for all CTSI members, all of the contributions that we receive, those are invested. And basically, just to give you kind of a health of the pool update, at the end of 2023, the cap pool had about $14.5 million in total equity. So being that we're a risk pool, some of that comes back to members. So for Elbert County, for this year, we had an equity return from that $500,000 of $6,357. And then there was also an interest distribution to all members. And for Elbert County, that amount was $25,753. So to figure out your contribution amount, we kind of take all of your, all the number of vehicles that you have, your different considerations with property, square footage and things, liability, basically what is your exposure, come up with the base amount, and then based on the kind of the average of your history here, we'll apply a loss factor and multiply that. So for example, your loss factor was 0.795, so that reduces by about 20% what your base contribution was. Taken all together, with the loss factor, the equity and interest returns for this year, your net contribution for cap was $870,855. And then we will look at where these claims have come from. So first of all, just the frequency of claims, just the number of claims generated from each department, and this is in Elbert County over the last 5 years altogether. So not surprisingly, law enforcement and road and bridge were your two biggest sources of claims generated in terms of numbers. And then we'll go down to the severity here, which is basically just what was the dollar amount associated with those claims from those departments. And you can see again, those same two departments are right up here with law enforcement and road and bridge that are leading the way there. So like I said, I know there were some vehicle-related and hail-related things in road and bridge. Law enforcement, I believe you had some more liability-related things and vehicle there as well. And then after that, a substantial drop-off down to administration and others. And if you have questions at all, just stop me at any point here along the way. So now we just kind of look at this a little bit differently and look at it more in terms of what was kind of the source of the claim, what happened that actually generated it. And again, just for Elbert County, the last 5 years, vehicle claims leading the way there in frequency. I guess the first two are actually vehicle related, so struck object or other things is the first one, and then quite a few animal strikes, 12 animal strikes there. And some backing incidents and off-road as well, so a lot of vehicle claims in there. And then if we just slide down and look at severity again in terms of dollars of those claims, like I said, a lot of hail and wind damage to vehicles and buildings. Then again, vehicle claims in the number 2 spot there again. And I'll probably mention this again, but we do offer defensive driving classes. In fact, I think we did some defensive driving with your road and bridge folks here. My colleague Dana came down for that a month or so ago. So we're always available for that. Yeah. Exactly, yeah, that's how it usually works, animal struck vehicle, so. And I won't go through this line by line, but you can just see kind of generally the source of some of those claims. Admin had the hail and wind there, and then law enforcement, arrest related. I'm not sure what the specifics of all of these are, but a good number of vehicle-related claims out of law enforcement again there too. Then we slide down to road and bridge, and a good chunk of their severity came from, it looks like, only 2 hail and wind claims. Your new facility is fantastic. Hopefully you don't have a repeat of any of what these events were. Yeah, I did not. Yeah, I did not see the old one, but my understanding is it's a massive upgrade. Yeah, yep. So again, just highlighting there are a good number of vehicle-related claims in there as well. All right. And I did bring a few copies that I printed out that I can leave with you here. So now this is just looking at the entire pool. So all of the counties that are part of the CTSI cap pool. And again, not surprising, vehicle claims here, the top 3 categories: striking an object, backing, and animal strikes.
A slide that shows breakout between claims for liability versus accidents. That could be just interesting to see, again, kind of by department. I mean, the risk of poor terminations or other, just personnel-related decisions
Yes,
are sometimes as high or higher in some of the areas. So I think we can parse them out based on this.
right. Yeah, I don't have it in a graph form, but I know I did see somewhere in this detail, there was something maybe that said employment related right here, down on this one, so. So they are laid out in that detail report, but not on a graph to kind of compare. Yep. So then, yeah, the pool as a whole, several vehicle categories on there again, and then street or roadway, that would be more to do with the condition of the street or roadway, generating claims from the motoring public, I would imagine. Then we drop down to severity. You might be wondering why fatality is the leading category of severity. Those are typically it's a small number of cases, but those are the types of things that typically make headlines and that you might see in the news with use of force type things that have happened in other counties and that kind of thing. So that's what that category is. It's primarily from law enforcement and use of force related.
Is this suicide or attempted jail related?
The suicide or attempted definitely is not in there. I know I have a little bit more detail coming up here. I don't believe that any of the suicide related would be in that category. I think that will show up as a smaller call out in a few minutes here. So after that category, again, a very small number of claims generating a high dollar amount. Then we're back to hail and wind, which you experience some. Nobody's really immune to that. Arrest related, oh, there it is right there. The suicide or attempted is its own category just below here. So yeah, that's also a substantial category. Yep. And then right after that, another vehicle related category. Again, this is the pool as a whole. I won't go line by line through here, but just highlighting again, you can kind of see some of the top line items there, the categories that we just talked about. Several vehicle related categories, and then also just wanted to call some attention to somewhere down here. There is network liability, and I know there's another category somewhere in here that is somewhat related, that is kind of capturing things like phishing attempts, network ransomware, things like that some counties have experienced. So I know we've sent out some tech updates on that, encouraging multi-factor authentication, which is that kind of annoying thing you get once in a while that says, is this really you signing in, and you have to put in a code or something like that. Just different ways to make it harder for those bad actors to complete the crimes that they're trying to complete. Any questions on the cap pool as a whole before we move on to workers' comp? All right. So some very good looking trends here in the work comp arena. You can see that all 5 years that are represented on here, you've had a very low severity of workers' comp claims, and we'll dive into that a little bit more here. So for work comp, I just wanted to point out we have 225 employees that are covered. No statutory volunteers in the county, but 45 appointed board members for a total of 270 individuals covered by workers' comp. So So that's a separate pool from the cap pool, of course. So just to give you an idea of the health of the pool as a whole, ending 2023, that pool had 27.7 million in total equity, and we were able to distribute 3 million back to members. So for Elbert County, what that looked like was you had a base contribution that started at 371,881, 104,931 in equity that was returned, and then after applying a similar loss factor to what we kind of discussed earlier, that let the net contribution 237,199.
So can I ask a good question about the statutory volunteer category that you just talked about? Are you saying that there are no covered or insured statutory volunteers for the county presently, or we just didn't have any claims?
That would be that we didn't have any listed that were covered unless there was an error of some sort. Usually it's like a search and rescue or sheriff's posse, things like that.
Right, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
It's probably something we need to look into.
Okay, yep. I'll make a note of that as well. Sure, or it could be that they're covered by another entity, possibly, I don't know, but yeah, we can look into that for sure.
Okay, thank you.
So then we'll just kind of go through and do the same thing that we did with the cap claims again and look at where are these coming from and what kind of claims are they. So again, just like the cap claims, we have road and bridge and law enforcement, just kind of flip-flopped on the frequency this time. Drop down to severity and follows exactly along, I think, with the frequency. So road and bridge was number one for severity with just over 150,000 of claim costs in the last 5 years, followed by law enforcement, and then very significant drop down to admin and hardly anything after that. So what types of claims were those? Just like everybody else, not only in CTSI, but I think in industry in general, slips and falls and body mechanics, which is things like strains and sprains from lifting, pushing, pulling, those types of things. Those tend to always be leading categories. Lifting is a separate category after that kind of falls along with that. And then some arrest related and some struck object. And for severity, the first two follow right along with how often things occur, slips and falls, and body mechanics again. And I guess one thing I will point out is there's, well, let's see, I'm probably getting ahead of myself here. There is a separate category that kind of covers claims arising out of training. And it's almost always law enforcement training where it's, trying to remember exactly what it's called. It's slipping my mind, but they basically, when they train, they need to go maybe not 100%, but pretty darn close to 100% effort to get the value out of the training. And we do have things that occur during those trainings. I don't know what we can really do about it, but I like to always at least make everybody aware that those are common and they do happen. You've been either fortunate or maybe you have some procedures in place to address that because they're not showing up here, so that's good. Again, just a little bit more detail here on some of these specifically. And I'm not going to read through all of them again, but you can kind of see there are a lot of different areas of the county represented here. We have fairgrounds, coroner, assessor. So there's a little bit that goes on in all the departments, but you know, as far as focusing effort, I guess a lot of things come out of law enforcement, road and bridge. So, yeah, some more substantial claims there with body mechanics and lifting again, slip and fall during ice removal. That was a large one that's down kind of towards the bottom here. Very, very typical of the things that we see. So now we will just kind of look at the workers' comp pool as a whole. Slips and falls right up there again, inmate related. So those are all things happening in jails or detention facilities. And then body mechanics and lifting again kind of round out the top categories there. And again, severity, why we always try to stress the importance of minimizing your slip, trip, and fall injuries and your, things like lifting, strains, and sprains. Every year, pretty much, those are going to be top categories here for workers' comp. And sometimes we'll see vehicle claims show up here too, so that's kind of a double whammy where you'll see it on the cap side with whatever damage was incurred, and then you'll also see, if you had an employee that was injured, we'll see it sometimes on the work comp side here as well. So yeah, I mean, as far as services and things like that, like I said, we've been out and have done some defensive driving training. We're always happy to come out and provide more of that. I am trying to get into most or all of the jails sometime within roughly the next year from now. There's the new jail. I know. Yeah. There's the 25 that I have at least. I only have half of them, so between my colleague and myself, yeah, in the next year. So yeah, not in them. I want them to let me leave at the end of the day. So yes. There is the new jail standards bill that I believe was signed last week that I know CTSI is going to be putting out more information on that. I have not fully digested that myself, but there are going to be some things that we all will need to know in there. And there is an opportunity for county commissioners to serve on an advisory panel too, I think I saw. So yes. Right. Yeah, training and procedures and those types of things. So so those are some things that I know are going to be coming up here in the near future. Jail standards. What was the other one that's been a hot topic lately? It's escaping me, but yeah, but yeah. So I just wanted to put it out there. I'm always available for questions. I've have experience in. I did 10 years with State Road and Bridge, so very familiar with that. I worked 2 years in a state prison back in Minnesota. So that was a while ago. I forgot some things, but it's not completely foreign to me either. So yes, 2 years. So, but they let me out every day at the end of the day. So yeah. Any questions on any of this, or anything that you had in mind for training or services that we can help with?
I'm just curious, we're having ongoing discussions here on vehicle policies. Does CTSI have any recommendations as far as mandatory testing after accidents, or best practices, or what other counties do, or anything along those lines?
Sure. Are you talking specifically about like a drug and alcohol post-accident? Yes. Yeah, for sure. In fact, I talked with Monty about doing a training on that topic about reasonable suspicion, which would be not post-accident, but kind of another prong of testing. So I'm sure that we have sample policies that I would be happy to send to you. Just going to make a note here on that.
But as far as coverage is concerned, it's not a requirement for CTSI?
Not a requirement, no. No, it wouldn't be a requirement, but other than the safety of it, you also want to make sure that you're well-trained, because you want to just make sure you're holding everybody to the same standard once you implement those, that everyone is on the same page, especially with reasonable suspicion that steps are followed, and post-accident too. If you're going to have a cutoff of this is the criteria for post-accident, make sure everybody's aware of it. So yeah, I'm happy to help.
So all drivers should be required for the same requirements regardless of department or elected office?
Not necessarily by department. Usually it'll be broken out by CDL drivers and non-CDL drivers, or possibly, yeah, those have things that are, you know, legal requirements that we're already doing, that I know that your road and bridge people are doing.
Sure.
I was just talking with another county with their Health and Human Services, who may transport kids in their cars at times, about, they're asking kind of the same things. What should we do with a policy for these people that may be transporting? So, again, it's not that there's anything specifically required for the non-CDL drivers, but we do have sample policies, and happy to help with
Okay.
that you're implementing.
Yeah, the more information we get, the better, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just as a membership pool, CTSI has never really put down, you know, you must, as a county, do something, because they are individual governments and whatnot. But yeah, a sample would be good.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Do you have samples of what some other counties might have done? And I'm thinking of road and bridge, sheriff, all of these different human services, yes?
Yeah, definitely.
I'll give you an email.
Yeah, for sure. I'll, once I know exactly what you're looking for, I'll send you our template, and then I'll also see if I can get another county to share what how they've actually kind of crafted it and changed it, so you can see what's been put into practice. Yeah. Anything else?
I guess we've talked about before, same in terms of kind of best practices. I'd be interested in see what other counties are doing in terms of safety committees or risk management committees. What frequency do they meet? What data do they look at? That sort of thing.
Yeah, I know safety committees, kind of a countywide safety committee, is something that I believe we just kind of polled everybody, all of our membership, to see, do you have one or not? I haven't personally been involved with any yet, but I guess that's not true. I have sat in virtually on a sheriff department specific committee, but again, that's, you know, if you have standing meetings and you'd like me to attend by Zoom, or if I'm in the area or can make it out, I'm always happy to attend those as well.
Okay. And since you mentioned the sheriff, I know in the past there have been these presentations that have been provided to the sheriff, bouncing the sheriff against other sheriff's departments, since they're one of the bigger consumers of
Right.
our insurance coverage. Is that still ongoing, or?
Is what's still?
Specific briefings like this, but just sheriff specific.
Yes. Yep. I know that at a minimum this year we sent out this report, but specifically tailored down to only the sheriff's department. Okay. That was sent out.
And comparing them to other sheriff's departments.
Yeah, exactly. And then when I visit, if I have that opportunity to visit a jail, I try to meet with the sheriff at that time and just get some highlights on it too. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
So, a couple of your earlier slides, they were talking about percentages, 50%, 24%, and what is that a ratio of?
Sure, I think, let me see if I'm looking at the right one here. Is this one of them, for example? Sure, so basically the 100% would be if the severity of your claims equaled what the actuary said, actuarial average, I guess, or actuarial 100%. that would be 100%. So if you were just right on, right where statistically you were projected to be, that would be 100%. So then anything below that is better than projected, and anything above that would be more claims than projected.
So it's not related to what we paid, it's what your projection or statistical projection is?
As far as the different percentage lines on there, that's based on projections, but your specific line that's on there that goes up and down a little bit, that's what your actual experience was. So for example, in this one for workers' comp, your actual claims were better than projected by, over 50% better most of the years on there.
I think your question was like for 2023, did we got back in claims 8% of what we paid in, or, I mean, I know
Sure.
our payments in are gonna be loosely
Okay.
related to that 100% line.
Sure, so the way that works, if I think I'm understanding, is that's where that loss factor is applied. So we just take your base contribution based on the number of employees in each job class, and then based on your, what your actual claims history has been, that'll get reduced down. That's the loss factor that gets applied. So the better that you've performed, the better effect that will have on your base contribution. So the better you perform, the lower it will drive down your contribution amount in total. Yep. And I have a note, we'll follow up on the statutory volunteers and the.
I'll shoot you an email, but I'm planning on just touching base on that. Your sample for accident testing policies, some examples of that, and then if you've got an example of a sheriff's department report, especially, comparing ours against others in the state specifically, that'd
Yep.
be awesome as well.
Yep, for sure. I will send that off to you tomorrow. Very good. I appreciate the time, everyone.
Thank you.
Good to meet you all.